Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, North, South. What is it again? Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Everywhere that's getting that 100,000 watt transmitted signal to your radio for those who are still using radios. But then again, and welcome to the world. Good morning to the world who, through the magic of the internet, are hearing or listening or seeing what we're doing, folks. Yes. We even have listeners in Barcelona, Spain, in London, England, and many other places around the world. But you know what? It should be a lively show. So get ready, folks. Hey, look, Melanie Keelan is already in the chat from Barcelona, Spain. Anyway, folks, get ready for the talk. Fund Drive is over. We can have a full show. We can talk to you ad nauseum. You can give us a call at 713-526-5738. We are ready. But before we get busy, we must go to, well, today it's just one genius in the studio at Caroline. Good morning, Howard.
I think that would be one genii. You
can't say one genii. Yeah.
One genii, yeah. I think that's the singular form of genius.
Okay.
Good morning, Egberto. It's another fine day here at the radio, and we are going to have a very exciting show today. Fund Drive is over with. You're right. We got more funds to operate for the next couple of months. So take advantage of that, folks, and call us at 713-526-5738. If you didn't get a chance to donate during Fund Drive, you can do that too. But in the meantime, we're going to turn it over to Egberto for an extremely exciting show today. I imagine there's going to be a lot of callers. Big news in the United States. First president ever to be convicted of felony charges. And all of the charges, not just a few of them, all 32 of them? Yeah. So
yes.
This should be interesting. And the Republicans are going insane. Oh my God, it's a sham trial. And little Stalin up in Austin's going, it's a sham trial. Oh my God. Which means that if they can get him, they can get you. So go for it.
It is so funny. But, today we are honored to have the one and only, the El Presidente de Indivisible Houston is in the house with us this morning. So before, I have a video to play with, just a short one, but before that I have to just say, good morning, Daniel Cohen, President of Indivisible Houston. How you doing this morning, my brother?
I'm doing well. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as usual at your crack of dawn show time. I'm ready to do this thing, though. Let's talk about it.
Wait a minute. Why did you start the show with a Donald Trump? In other words, why did you start the show with a lie? I mean, you're sleepy, man. These millennials that work for themselves, they kind of, hey, brother, you doing this stuff that early in the damn morning? You're going to wake me up like this, and you're yawning with your cat going across the screen, and hey, nah, but
hey, man,
let me.
I'm gonna charge you for a cup of coffee, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, you got it, brother. You got it. But thank you for being here. We're so honored. Anyway, folks, I want you guys to listen to this, and then we will take it on the other side. Well, it is official. The former president of the United States is a convicted felon. Check it out.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Count 6, guilty. Count 7, guilty. Count 8, guilty. And count 9, guilty. Count 10, guilty. Count 11, guilty. Count 12, guilty. Count 13, guilty. Count 14, guilty. Count 16, guilty. Count 17, guilty. Count 18, guilty. Count 19, guilty. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty. Count 23, guilty. Count 24, guilty. Count 25, guilty. Count 26, guilty. Count 27 on screen, guilty. Count 28, guilty. Count 29, guilty. Count 30, guilty. Count 31, guilty. Count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts.
This was a fair trial, and I must say I am ecstatic that I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought we would have had a hung jury, but you know what? It shows that the threats and all the hype that Donald Trump puts out there to scare people, the paper tiger has finally met his scissors, and that is the jury of American people who are not snowed by the ridiculousness of a criminal, a thug, somebody who has consistently screwed people over, both when he had hotels and didn't pay people, when he created universities that were frauds, when he took money from charities, when he went ahead and raped women, when he did all these things this thug got away with for several decades. And finally, he met a jury of his peers that says, no more. You are a felon. Let's see what the people have to say about it. Let's see if the American people will make the mistake and put a felon as the president of this country. Somebody who is a crook. They did it once. Will they do it again? They did it once. Will they do it again? Well, my dear brother Daniel Cohen, will they do it again? Persuasive Barrier is on the chat. He says, remember, Egberto, he's Nelson Mandela. Now, LOL. Oh my God, he's Nelson Mandela. If he's Nelson Mandela, he needs to spend some time in jail, right? Anyway, Daniel, what's up?
What's going on? We were saying this before the show. Everyone's going to remember where they were and what they were doing when they found out that the president was, or that the former president was a felon. And I guess we're going to see where it goes from here. But it's May 31st, and November is a long way away, so it's hard to say exactly what's going on. But historic for sure, and I think that guy enjoyed reading the counts. How about you?
Oh, I think he enjoyed reading the counts. I tell you what, I kind of cut my program short because it happened during Politics Done Right at 3 o'clock. And when one of the people in the chat in our show, they said, the verdict is in. And I'm like, the verdict, are you saying a hung jury? What it is? And then what started to happen, I got a text of one of the callers saying, no, Egberto, the verdict is in. I'm like, oh, I guess that means it's not a hung jury. So I said, okay, we're going to cut Politics Done Right short at 3. And then I tried to, but then one of my MAGA listeners called in, and he's like, oh, the trial was, and he went on to stuff. So I listened, like I always do. I listened to what he had to say, and then I cut the program and said, it is time, Daniel. It is time to go ahead. I'm going to tell you why, even as a journalist kind of a guy, I am excited about this, because this guy broke all the norms of, standard journalism doesn't work with MAGA or Trump, because they use the rules of standard journalism to screw journalism and the country. They know how to use the thing about this side said this and the other side this gives plausibility to crap. And once you give plausibility to crap, that decision is left to people who may not have the time to do the homework that it takes to do for this kind of stuff. And at this point, plausibility is a clear and present danger. We have to be out with it. But anyway, it seems like the mayor of Politics Done Right is on the phone. The first call of the morning goes to the one and only Johnny. Good morning, Johnny.
Yeah, even though it's raining cats and dogs outside, I think it's going to be a good day. Not just because I'm static free. Maybe that's a good omen. but also because of the fact that despite what Scott Death Row on NPR says, and despite what the lady on NPR said before him, it's not a sad day in America. Give me a break. And she says it was a sad day because this was the first U.S. president to blah, blah, blah. I would say, no, lady. Donald Trump was never a legitimate president. He occupied the White House. The entire time he was in there, he was making hay. He got away with more than $1.6 billion billion dollars. That's 1,000 times the amount of presidential salary he promised the American people he would not take because he's rich and he will work for free. Yeah, right. That man is a lifelong con man and career criminal. It's a good day when a lifelong con man and career criminal who has never had to account for his decades of criminality has finally got a guilty verdict across the board. It's a good day. Let's see how justice turns out in the next few days, weeks, and months. Let's see if he winds up in a prison cell eating a bologna sandwich next to a dirty stainless steel basin and toilet bowl. Let's see if that happens. Then I will really celebrate, and I'll say we have a chance.
Let me tell you, Johnny, because you point something. For all those people saying it's a sad day, it's a sad day. No, it has been sad decades that somebody, one person, because of their wealth and who they are, could have gotten away for so long with doing so much harm to so many. Those are the sad days. And when I just told Daniel that the media, Trump and his ilk has really messed with how the media, how the news comes across from the media. It's not, how can it possibly be a sad day when somebody that everybody in the media knows has been a crook for decades, have been carousing with not terrorists, but maybe terrorists, who knows, with mobsters, been carousing, been doing the things that he's done to women over and over again. Created universities to pilfer people. All these reporters that are saying now, they sit down on the host and, oh, it's a sad day in America that we have a convicted felon as president. There is nothing that happened yesterday that's different from the last 40 years of what Trump has done to people. The only thing changed is that finally 12 people say, at the cost of the possibility that I will get harm, that I am going to do the right thing and not allow a thug who once looked at the Manhattan Five or the Central Park Five and said these people committed crimes and should have been murdered, meaning capital murder. He said that. Well, poetic justice is an interesting thing. Anything else, Brother Mayor of Politics Done Right?
Yes, sir. If I may indulge you just for an additional minute or two, which is rare for me, before I politely challenge what you said about regular journalism, I will thank you what you just reminded us about, the fact that he associates with mobsters. Remember back in the day with Barack Obama when the right wing would always say, oh, guilt by association. He must be guilty because he associates with Reverend Wright. He goes to Reverend Wright's sermons. Therefore, he's like Reverend Wright because Reverend Wright one time spoke the truth about the history of this country and who we really are and what we never were. And therefore, Barack Obama is guilty. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? As Alberto just reminded us, Donald Trump is a mobster. He laundered money for both the New York and Russian mobs. You think that doesn't make him guilty by association? Come on. And by the way, I will respectfully disagree with you with regards to regular journalism. Donald Trump and the Republicans, they don't take advantage of it. They exploit it, and the fault lies in with the journalists, the so-called journalists in Manhattan, the legacy media. I've said this time and time again, and I will just remind everyone, this is why we have to support Pacifica Radio, Free Speech TV, The Nation Magazine, Jim Hightower's newsletter. These outlets are the only thing that stands between the American people and total dissolution of truth. So,
I could have said it no better. I could have said it no better. Thank you for that, Mayor of Politics Done Right, El Senor Johnny. You want to put your 2 cents in before I go to Harry, Daniel?
One more.
All hail the mayor of Politics Done Right, Johnny. Thank you for addressing your loyal constituents today. You couldn't have said it better myself.
Absolutely. All right.
Like guys, I'd
Thank you.
like to hear what my friend Brian has to say about this. Do you think he's going to think it's a sad day because he loves to defend Donald Trump? I'm waiting to hear. Brian, call in. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and go to El Senor Howard. Howard, what's up?
I was just going to say, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we know about DJT.
Yes.
It's just the tip. There is so much stuff that you will never find that he's done. There is so much under those rugs that has been swept under the rug for so many decades. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So think of that when they think of the conviction. Oh, it's a conviction. Oh, my God. Hey, this is a trial that shouldn't have even taken place, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you look under all that stuff and all the decades of con that he's done, you would be shocked.
And Howard, it's amazing because for all those people that are his sycophants, I'm talking about the big senators, etc. That what he probably has is he has something on all of them. Lindsey Graham, all these guys, he likely has something on them why the sycophancy is so strong. But anyway, let's go to brother Harry. Harry, you must be sitting down, drinking your coffee, saying, At last. Good morning, Harry.
At last. Good morning, Roberto. Good morning, Daniel. And good morning to the prophet Howard Reynolds, who said a few months back that I think we're going to get a conviction. And I'm glad you admitted, Roberto, that when I talked to you about this back then, that you thought it was going to be a hung jury. And I'm glad that it is not. And I'm just happy that
you can wait, Harry. You can say it. You can say, Egberto, I'm glad that you were damn wrong. That's okay, man.
I could. Yeah. I'm glad you were damn wrong because you were so sure it's going to be a hung jury. When I first heard that, the first two people that came to my mind was Prophet Howard Reynolds, because he said we're going to get a conviction, and Roberto Willis, and I said, I can't wait to talk to both of them about this tomorrow. And I just enjoy everything that the mayor of Politics Done Right said there. Right on. He's right about it. And I'm also looking forward to what Brian has to say, because I was also listening to On the Middle, and they had on NPR, there was one Trump caller who said, these charges are going to get overturned in the appeal. I hope the appeal fails miserably, and we're going to still get a President Trump. And my friend from Florida, he sent me a text, and he said, well, Harry, he's probably not going to do any prison time. And he's just continue on to say, this is just a setback, and that it's just a witch hunt, and they're out to get poor old Donald Trump, and he's still going to be in there running for the office. And like you said a little while ago, let's hope the American people will defeat him at the polls, because he's up here talking about the real verdict is November 5th, and hopefully enough Americans will see to it that we do not put a criminal in the White House.
Now, Harry, let me just say this, because Fox News have finally started. And by the way, welcome aboard Persuasive Barrier. Great to see you here. What is interesting is that Fox News and some right-wing channels are now telling their people, you have to vote by mail, you have to absentee vote. Yes, we know that the voting system is corrupt, but since they have those people stacking the votes, we need to do our part legally, but we have to. Of course, you must remember that most of the people convicted right now of any kind of voter fraud, which is a very small number, they've all been Trump voters. So let's kind of get some of the perspective correctly. And when you talk about Brian, hey, we love our Brian out here. Brian may be on the right. Brian is a good guy. And let me just say one other thing about Brian. Brian may call in here and surprise us. I don't know that he will, but I do know that he will. And let me just say one other thing about Brian. Brian is a good guy. And let me just say one other thing about Brian. Brian may call in here and surprise us. I don't know that he will, but I do know that he will. And let me just say one other thing about Brian. Brian may call in here and surprise us. I don't know that he will, but there's a possibility that he could call in and say, "Oh, well, if the jury has spoken." So we'll see. Brian is a law and order guy. Maybe we'll get a different tone from Brian, but I love my brother. Okay, Harry, I need to go to Peter. Anything else to close out, brother?
Okay, I was going to say, I know he's going to be sentenced on July 11th. Let's hope he does some prison time, and let's also hope and pray that Rudolph Giuliani and Trump's lawyer team for doing the fake electors and trying to overturn the Arizona results 4 years ago will also be held accountable, and the right verdict will come down, and they will be convicted as well.
Let's hope they're roommates. Thank you very much, Harry. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so kindly, Persuasive Virus Super Chat. Anyway, go ahead, Daniel. Anything you want to add? I know today we're going to talk about as well, folks. We're talking about Trump right now because it's a hot story that just occurred. But Daniel also has some important stuff to talk about, the Molly Cook race. And I'm going to want to give Daniel some time to talk about that. But before we get there, Daniel, you want to add anything to Harry before I go to Peter?
No, thanks for being a hero. Thanks for being a member of the show community, because I'm loving it right now. I'm enjoying listening like you, my dude.
All right, let's go to brother Peter. Come on in, Peter.
Yes, happy Friday, Alberto. Thank you so much for allowing me to be the voice of reason on Politics Done Right, my brothers. Thank you so much. And see, it's an outstanding day, as you know. Majority of us have a big smile on our face. Guess which politician wants to actually smack that smile right off of our faces? Any guesses there, Egberto? Maybe someone who represents us in Congress?
It's Peter from CD2. Peter from Congressional District 2 running against Crenshaw, right?
That's right. Dan Crenshaw, you hardly believe it. Instead of, acknowledging that justice was served, he actually, the same as probably most Republicans, so, just in denial. So that's what he said, and it's hard to believe there, Alberto and brothers. So that's all I'm asking. Hey, if we could just unite around this common cause, law and order, and calling a spade a spade. So that's all. That's really what I wanted to say this morning, Alberto, and thank you again for...
Well, Peter, let me just say, we are a 501c3, so we can't get into electoral politics per se and take up choices on votes, but our proclivities on this show is progressive. Everybody give brother in CD2 a look. That is the one and only. Give your full credentials.
Yeah, so I'm a resource management major. That's my background in college, so I'll be a great fit for the Energy and Commerce Committee. I just want to make our place a better space, cleaner air, fresher water, and all the things we need, clean soil for clean environment. So that's what I'm all about. I'll keep listening for the rest of the day. And again, congratulations to the justice of the United States of America. And that's all I really wanted to say, Alberto. And
thank you very much, Peter. Appreciate your Happy Friday. I appreciate your voice, brother. And by the way, Crenshaw, the floor is open for you to come on Politics Done Right. I'd love to speak to you as well. That would be a wonderful interview. Let's go to Betty. Sister Betty, come on in.
Hi, Alberto. I just want to let you know I heard you on Progressive Forum last night.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're still out there. Yes, you're still out there beating the bushes for 90.1. That was so great to hear you out there, and you were. That was very sweet, and it made me feel like I was in the presence of something good and great. You are. I've been listening to you for 8 years. I guess you might recognize my voice for now.
Of course I recognize your voice, Betty.
At least I finally got my finger out of my mouth after 8 years. And for Trump, the only thing I can say about Trump that was good, he made me drop all my electronics, and I went to listening to 90.1. That's the only good thing that he's ever done for me. And
No, I just want to say first of all, thank you so kindly for the kudos, my beautiful lady. And secondly, yeah, I think when we heard the news, we all kind of changed what we were doing when it comes to progressive forum. I just love me some Wally. Wally's been around KPFT for a long time, and he always has something to teach all of us because he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. Wally and Lillian. But anyway, continue, my sister.
Well, anyway, I just want to go ahead and let you go. I'll be calling in also, but I wanted your listeners to hear that you're on the ball. Okay.
Thanks, sis. Appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you. You have a wonderful rest of your. Today's Friday, right? Yeah. You have a great weekend.
Yeah, I have my cats and my big old dog, and that's what I wake up to each morning. I want to be with them, and I want to be with 90.1.
There you go. I mean, we are going to have to chop this right there and say, I want to be with my cat, dogs, and 90.1. You just made my day. Thank you so kindly, Betty.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day. Anyway, folks, like I said, I can't believe right now we don't have any calls. Wake up, people. If Daniel Cohen, president of Indivisible Houston, can be up at 6 in the morning to do the show, and trust me, he doesn't get up at 6 in the mornings, but he's here to do the show. Well, since we don't have any callers right now on Trump, I'm going to let Daniel start with the subject that he wanted to come on to the show and talk about, and then we'll get back to Trump as soon as folks want to talk or add to the discussion in that regard. So, my dear brother Cohen, there were some issues that really concerned you in the Molly Cook, Jarvis Johnson race, and you were pretty quiet. Surprisingly, you were pretty quiet on some of the bad stuff that was done, and I want to open up the air for you to go ahead and describe what you saw.
Well, let's start with this, I think, because I don't know if people have entirely seen the seismic nature of what happened in that Senate district race, which is that for the first time in my lifetime and in my memory, a progressive candidate who was a movement builder, who came from a background that was not in law, it was not in business, it was as an emergency room nurse and a freeway fighter, someone who got a whole community together to push back on a freeway that to this day has still not broken ground. It looks headed there by the law, but it has not broken the ground as it is. And we know that things do not happen until they happen in politics. Defeated somebody who was a 20-something year legislator. And in the aftermath of that, before going back and talking about anything related to the race, I'll say it's interesting because the Harris County Democratic Party, as well as the Houston Chronicle, have called the race, as has Sheila Jackson Lee, who congratulated the senator for being reelected since she won on May 4th in the special election and then won again on May 28th. Interestingly enough, folks may not remember, but Jarvis Johnson tried to run a primary against Sheila Jackson Lee in 2010, citing that the final straw for him was that she had handed out a resolution honoring Michael Jackson's life to his family at his funeral, which apparently was enough of a reason for the then city councilman to jump in. Now, if we flash forward or backward, depending on how you look at it from what I just said, to the last few months and the race, the thing that I think was overlooked was that at the last minute, the Representative Johnson tried to use a strategy of making Israel-Palestine a central issue in a Senate district race. And there's several different things that I want to say about that. And that's why I was so quiet about it, because I was out there basically pushing for the positive case of Molly Cook becoming a senator and changing the dynamics of the Texas legislature, as opposed to somebody who's been there 20 years, doesn't really have the track record to be able to show that he's ready for these times. Frankly, we are in unprecedented times. And I think that if you make the cases of playing the games and giving people access for donations, as you said to the Chronicle, and just playing a sort of point of order challenge in the Texas legislature, then you're not prepared for what's happening right now. Not in 2024. That might have been the case in 1996, but it's not the case in 2024. But there are several things that bothered me about him trying to place Israel-Palestine at the front and center. And I'll start with this. It's not genuine. It's just not. We heard about a lot of it later. There was a controlled flow of information, which is standard in politics. I mean, and unto itself is not the challenge, but we didn't quite hear the extent of it until later. But over the course of this cycle, I will say that he ran an ad accusing his opponent of defunding the police. He photoshopped Palestinian protesters next to her while she was, on a megaphone in a separate clip related to freeway fighting, and said that we need progress, not protest. Not to mention, of course, that he was at a protest opposing the HISD takeover at City Hall not 4 or 5 days ago, last weekend. He sent out several mailers evoking his relationship with Mickey Leland, and then pointed out that Mickey Leland had set up a kibbutz exchange program for African American students here in Houston. And he sent out mailers saying, that Jarvis stands up with the Jewish community, and then apparently gave a pitch to Meyerland Democrats calling Molly Cook anti-Israel. And then in addition to that, there was a whisper campaign that came from friends of his campaign accusing her of all kinds of things because she had the gall to say that she's an ER nurse and that she'll never support bombs blowing up human life. Doesn't it seem like a very controversial statement to me? And it seems like where the Democratic Party, frankly, should be when it comes to foreign policy one way or another. But on top of all of that, Jarvis Johnson would have bartered a ceasefire in exchange for support in a heartbeat. And I know that for a fact. If anybody would like to challenge it, we'll be happy to have a discussion about that because it's incontrovertible. We'll be able to show the exact proof of all of those things. But what's really nasty about all of this, in addition to the fact that one has nothing to do with the other, and that it's disingenuous, is that right now I can speak from the perspective of somebody who was raised in Jewish communities and from the perspective of somebody who's in those communities and the culture that's going on.
Let me stop you for a second here. You are Jewish, correct?
Oh, of course, yes. And I've grown up in some of the major institutions and Jewish institutions in the Houston area. And some of those that are nationally connected. And what I can say is that we're not even talking about hard lines of the more hot button sort of concepts, right? Is it Zionism, anti-Zionism? Is it ceasefire or not? Which some people would say is not difficult lines. But we'll even put any of that aside for a moment. We're not even getting to that part of the discussion. What we're getting to is if you have any dissent whatsoever, then there's tremendous pressure for you to shut that dissent down. Social, cultural, familial pressure for lots of different people. I'm very lucky. My parents are good folks. They don't give me that kind of familial pressure. But I guarantee somewhere in almost every Jewish American's family, there is pressure to go ahead and from someone, almost every, let's say, American Jewish family, there's pressure from the community and pressure from members of the family to tack a certain line when it comes to Israel. A very strange line, in fact. It's a line by which American Jews sound more like the Likudniks of Israel, while at the same time condemning Benjamin Netanyahu, which is not extremely sensible in terms of how that argument goes down. And so what the representative ended up doing by taking the approach that he did in Houston was to pit Jews against Jews, pit Jews against Muslims and Arabs and anybody else who has a different perspective within the entire Israel-Palestine issue, and frankly, disingenuously attempt to use those to shut down a movement candidate. And I don't think for a second, I'll say this as well, that while I do think some of the people who supported him on those grounds legitimately believed what they believed, I don't think for a second that this was absent the tint of people who see their power diminished rightfully because they've done immoral things and taken immoral stances, attempting to seize some of it back by upsetting a movement candidate who they know that a lot of people in the Houston community and the progressive Democratic wing of the Democratic Party, supported. So I think it was disingenuous in multiple ways. I think he's disingenuous with the position, and I think there were a lot of people who were somewhat disingenuous in terms of jumping in on this fight and calling Molly Cook all of these nasty things. I think Senator Cook's going to do an excellent job. I think she's going to, we're going to see the canvassing of the results, but she's going to win this race and go to Austin, and she's going to completely change the dynamic just by being in the building, just by being a different person. Now, I'm not saying that Austin's going to run entirely differently or that I'm looking forward to a legislative session, because in Texas, I never am under Greg Abbott or most of the other people that I've seen during my lifetime. But I do think that there were a lot of dynamics involved in this, and I think it is shameful and harmful and divisive to run a state Senate campaign that way, and it hasn't really been spoken about. I didn't speak about it during the race because I don't think that the race should be about that. I think the race, and I think we all pretty much know that. It's not that has no impact on things going on in the legislature, but I had somebody call me and say, Daniel, what if something anti-Israel goes through the legislature? You think Greg Abbott is going to sign a resolution one way or another criticizing the Israeli? Do you know how fast that would be vetoed? I mean, this is clearly a red herring to anything that's actually going on in Texas. One really doesn't have too much to do with the other. Maybe at the margins, right? Things like, like whether or not state agencies are investing in certain bonds or companies or things like that. But for the most part, it was a callous, disingenuous misdirect and an attempt to win a state Senate race because he doesn't have a chair and the music has stopped playing. And it's that simple.
Nobody should use these ethnic and racial issues, especially done falsely, to try to do an election, because you corrupt the population proper. It's not just against you, corrupt the population, and you have them fighting against each other for something that shouldn't be. So, Daniel, I'm so happy that you brought that up, and in a very measured way. Thank you so kindly for doing so. Our phones are starting to heat up again. This morning, Jack was not in the studio to give us his wisdom, but guess what? It seems like Brother Jack is on the line, and we must have Jack's wisdom. Jack, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, Egberto. I just overslept. I didn't hear the alarm this morning, but I got kind of a different headline here. Porn star thanks America for their support in exposing the hypocrisy of Trump. Thank you, Stormy Daniels, for your dedication to the obvious truth. You stand up there with the great truth tellers now. Daniel Ellsberg, Serpico, Edward Snowden, Sybil, Julian Assange, Chelsea Bradley Manning, and now Stormy Daniels. The world thanks you for your vigilance, Stormy.
Wow, Jack. Wow, Jack.
She's the water that got in the stone that cracked the stone.
Oh, and you're coming with some good analogies too. Love it, man. Hey, Jack, thank you very much for those words of wisdom. And you sit down, drink a cup of coffee. As long as you're here, we're embracing you, my brother. Thank you for calling in, sir.
All right. Take care, Berto.
Have a good one. All right, let's go to Ilan. Ilan, how are you doing, my big brother?
Hello. First things first, we are under a severe thunderstorm warning. The wave is going to be passing through Houston, Harris County in the next 30 minutes to an hour. Penny-sized hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds. So repeated previous waves that pass through. So be forewarned about that.
Thank you for that, Ilan.
I continue to say that a issue that's not really being discussed is the disparity in funding of elections. If you don't have at least 5 digits, if not a 6-digit, to spend on a non-local race, you're not going to be in it. So, it's pretty much in proportion to how much money you have to run. And the problem with this is if you're an elected office holder, you're going to spend half your time trying to raise money for the next race instead of doing your job that you were elected to do. So I'm in favor of making all donations to candidates by individuals, corporations, and PACs illegal, and have it government funded out of a pool that's shared equally by all registered candidates. So I just wanted to get that thought out there that it's too much money in politics right now, and too much disparity in that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Elan. Elan. It turns out that you're right. It's a subject that we should cover. We should have public funding for elections. I don't know exactly what the procedure would be to have this selection of people. We discuss a whole lot of this at the Netroots Nation every year in wherever it is that we have it. This year we're having it in July. Go ahead. What's that?
Women elected for president of Mexico, and in South Africa cover South Africa's election. So lots of stuff going on. I also listen to BBC, but I'm a $10 a month subscriber in spite of being on $930 a month Social Security. Try to live on that amount of money if you can.
You can't. And Alon, let me just tell you, first of all, you have been a stalwart here at KPFT. So we thank you so kindly. The phones are starting to fill up. So I got to go. But thank you for what you do and who you are, brother. All right. And keeping us informed. And yes, we need to do something about public elections. We need to do something about a hell of a lot of other stuff. So keep on keeping on, brother. We'll talk. Let's go to Farvet. Moses. Come on in, Moses.
Buenos días.
Buenos días, hermana. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien.
Habla conmigo, por favor. Habla conmigo. Talk to me.
Let me start to support the caller before. Who was it?
Alan.
No, before that.
Oh,
but
before
anyway.
Elan was, we had Johnny. We also had Harry. Who am I missing?
Maybe Johnny.
No, Peter.
Maybe. But anyway, for all those people that have a Bible in their hands and so I'm strengthening the hands of wicked men that they turn not from their wickedness. They have not seen this part. And a new thing will I make in the earth, and a woman shall compass a man. That's what Stormy Daniels has done. And
yes, you're actually quoting not Betty, but you're quoting Brother Jack, who called in with his word of wisdom. Thank you. That's who you meant. Go ahead, Moses.
Now I'm not finished yet. I'm not going to be long, but I'm not finished yet. America now has seen a little crack of light. And I hope they find the strength and the courage to know that we can do this. We can clean up the house and make America a nation of justice, judgment, truth, and equity more than it always was. This is the generation that can bring us to the hill, to the promised land, because the nation, the child is ready to be born, but let us give it strength to come out. The nation is ready, no matter what the detractors might say. But there is something among the people that says, we are tired of this mess. We see what is happening in Israel. We see what is the dictators are doing in all other countries. And we are beginning to see shadows of it in America. And we also awoke. And like I always say, that battle belongs to God. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Moses. Thank you so kindly from your lips to America. Thank you so kindly. And yes, folks, Alan is a former KPFT LSV member, very hard worker in our system. Welcome aboard, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome aboard, Texas Blue Bonnet, who says, indeed, this morning, good morning, justice has prevailed in New York City. And Paul has a lot to say. Persuasive have a lot to say, but I've got to get to Brian first. But keep chatting, keep talking. Brian, my brother from another mother will be on the air in a few seconds. There we go. How you doing, Brian?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me.
Okay, first off, this is a page out of Obama's playbook. If you can't beat him, get him off the ballot. Again, that's how Obama originally became a city councilman. He had his opponent disqualified. Second off, this is going to go to an appeals court, and Trump will win. All right. Did you see the jury notification?
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah. They didn't have to have, the judge told the jury, you don't have to have unanimous. You only have to agree on some of the guilty parts. How would you feel if you're sitting before a judge as a defendant and your rights are abused like this? It has to be a unanimous decision.
Mm-hmm. Brian, may I interrupt for 1 second since you mentioned it wasn't a unanimous decision? Let me just clarify, because your sources of information are saying that's not the truth. Let me tell you what happened. What happened is the judge told them the decision of guilt has to be unanimous. How you get to that decision of guilt doesn't have to follow the same pathway. There's a difference there. In other words, if what you looked at him guilty for is this particular item and this particular item, that's your guilty path. And somebody else may say this particular item from the entire thing, from the entire procession itself. That's not an instruction any different than what's given in any other case. But let me say, Brian, and that is, let me finish. Tell you, one of the reasons everybody comes on and get to say whatever they want on the air here is because I think it is important. What you just said is important for our audience, you and everybody else, because I watched Fox News all night last night, except I broke in for CNN every so often and MSNBC. And the reason I did this is because I knew they were going to be spinning a narrative that fools a lot of people, that convinces a lot of people of things that really didn't happen. And that's what I saw. And by you coming in and saying that the verdict didn't have to be unanimous, etc., as if something different happened than in every other case, I wanted you to bring that to our floor so that we could correct the record. Now, whether you choose to accept the correction or not, that's on you and on anybody who wants that. But Brian, I want to ask you, now that you asked me a question, I'm going to ask you a question. And it goes this way. You know for a fact all the things that Trump has done to women. You know for a fact all the guilty pleas that he had to do for stealing money from his charity, from lying about, from stealing money from people by making them believe they're going to a university that they haven't, from stiffing the average working class when they come to his hotels to work. Everybody knows that. That's not conjecture. Everybody knows that. My question to you is, how can you possibly, and I'd like a one sentence answer because I got to go to Jake. How can you possibly support somebody that has harmed so many working class people, so many middle class people, and others, and also rape women? How can you support that? Thank you, Brian. Answer me.
Okay, did you just say he raped women?
Actually, a judge said that. I didn't say it. A judge said it.
Yeah. Well, that's not been proved. And yeah, I do support him because this was the worst thing that could ever happen to the United States. This really was. This was the worst thing. This was a misdemeanor from 7 years ago, and they turned it into a felony.
Okay, that's fine. That is fine. Daniel want to answer you real quick. Daniel, do it real quick for me because I got 2 more calls on a little time. So answer, Daniel. Go ahead, real quick.
The worst thing to ever happen to the 2 world wars is slavery. There's been massive discrimination historically. This is the fervor that sweeps over a right-wing fascist level populist population, because you start saying things like that. You start defending
one
somebody.
at a time.
Hold on. You start defending somebody. You start turning him into a messiah who's entirely above the law. You start denying anything that has factually come out. You start selecting which propaganda you listen to and getting rid of everything else. And then you attack the universities. You attack higher education, which are the people who tell you to listen to the various viewpoints. And so you paint them as leftists and believe whatever you want from a machine. And you start saying things like, this is the worst thing to ever happen to the country. Come on, man. We had a civil war in this country. It's a couple hundred years ago. We had years of slavery before that. We destroyed countries that were democratically elected in South America for economic means. And you say that the worst thing that's ever happened to this country is a fair trial found a guy who was guilty of the crimes that he actually committed. There's really nothing else that we can't. Yes, it is good that everybody else heard what you had to say and that Egberto dispelled the nonsense that you heard from Fox News, but there isn't really a common reality between us right now. And I think that people need to hear that too, because for you to come out and say that is a sign of a messianic cult, my friend. There's nothing else to be said. You're in a cult. I hope you get deprogrammed.
Also,
but that's it.
Also, Howard said, hold on a second, Brian. I promise I'll give you another 30 seconds, Brian. I promise you this. But Howard says something very interesting. He says 9/11 was a lot worse. Go ahead, Brian. Give me another 15 seconds.
Obviously.
Come on in, Brian. Brian, come on in.
I'm not a fascist. I'm not a fascist. I don't watch Fox News. The legal system has been terribly abused. This was a misdemeanor that was upgraded to a felony to get Trump off of the ballot.
Okay.
Yes,
I don't think that's the case because nobody now is. But Brian, let's be clear here, and I want you to think about this and let's talk. Brian, think about this and let's talk about this tomorrow. I gave you some really bad things that we know fact-based Trump has done. And we're still talking about a misdemeanor being turned into a felony. Let's talk tomorrow. You call every day, and I love having you call. Thank you, my brother. Let's go ahead and talk to Jake. Come on in, Jake.
Good morning. I'm not sure I'm going to make it past Brian, but I'm going to go with what I call about. First good morning I've had in a while. I got 2 pieces of news. One yesterday afternoon, of course. The Trump verdict, thank goodness for that. 12 New York citizens followed the law 34 times. The second was a piece of good news that I hadn't yet received but was wondering about, not having heard about since the election on the 28th, that Molly Cook unseated Jarvis Johnson. So those are 2 of my votes that I was very happy to see turn into reality. Thank you for sharing what you share with us, Egberto. I'll get off and let the next person call.
Thank you so kindly, Jake. You're a wonderful person for giving this space to others as well. Okay, Richard, come on in. We got to hold everything now to 30 seconds. Come on in, Richard.
Yeah, I don't know where this guy. I don't know who this guy is talking about Jarvis Johnson, but I would like to know who he is and where he getting this information from. Also, you talked about Alain came on. I don't know if you know, he was one of the first black cyclists in the country, for the most part, to start a black cycling team. And his history is so deep, and he doesn't get enough recognition for that. And I think you guys, and it's not his work with KPFT, that's regardless what he did with them. I'm just talking about his work in the community. It goes a long way. Especially
who are we talking about? Alain?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alain is a great guy. I know Alain personally.
He was, yeah, I know him. But as a kid growing up, seeing him as a cyclist was just phenomenal. and he's done a lot of work in the community, and he continues on. That's all I had to say. I don't know why you guys come out attacking Jarvis, because Jarvis done a lot of work.
Okay, no, let me just tell you. Let me just say one thing, Richard. When you see the ad that Jarvis did against, I saw both ads that he did against Molly Cook. And by the way, I like Molly Cook, and I actually like. I don't have anything against Jarvis, but I like something new coming along because she's very progressive. Okay. Now, when you see the ad, it looked like a Republican ad against Molly, and also it had quite a bit of bad misinformation, actually lies. I'll just call it lies in the ad. So that's what he's calling out. He's not calling out the person. He's calling out the lies, and he's showing it on the screen now. But Richard, we'll talk another time when we have more time. Okay.
I don't think.
Can I get in here for 2 seconds, Gilberto? I mean, Richard.
Yeah,
everything I said.
Real quick. Go ahead.
Everything I said. I have receipts. I have receipts for everything that I said. So if you want to know where I'm getting my information, I have the screenshots, I have the receipts, I have the video, and I'll end on a positive note. You should share the information that you have about Alon Alon. I'm a big history fan for Houston history. If you think he should be honored, please share that information so that we can spread that out. So hopefully we can end on a together note. But I want you to know I have receipts for everything I said. Everything.
Real quick, Richard, 30 seconds.
I don't know who he's with, but Jarvis, you got receipts and everything. I doubt seriously if you have any receipts of saying Jarvis did anything wrong.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. You call me a liar, that's fine, but I have the receipts, so
okay.
I guess
Again, I can corroborate everything that Daniel said on screen. We spoke about behind the scene. It is all correct. There's no doubt about what he said, Richard. We are journalists here. Whether friendly or not, we should do the right thing. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Let's go. We got to close this baby. What's that? All right. Anyway, folks, look, one of the things that one has to learn when you do this kind of work, you may have a friend or somebody that you like or whatever. If you're a journalist, you either do one of two things. If you don't want to, you either not say anything. But the one thing you never do is mislead your audience at all, ever. And you'll never hear me do that, whomever it is. If it's a friend, the best I will do is shut up. And the reason I will shut up is since I can't speak ill of my friend, if that's the case, I can't also mislead the population. Anyway, I got to get out of here. Howard, quick closer.
Oh, just taking care of some technical things. Lightning took us out again, but we're back on. So we're going to continue our programming.
All right. Thank you so kind. Anyway, folks, thank you all. Please remember the rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter. politicsandright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willis. I want to thank Daniel from Indivisible Houston. Quick line. What's the website? Real quick.
IndivisibleHouston.org. That's indivisible, like our nation, indivisible, Houston, like this great city.org. Please check us out.
My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics and Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Just wanted to thank everyone who made a donation during the last pledge drive to keep KPFT alive. We're going for 55 years, and thanks to you, KPFT is just a little stronger. Thanks again for listening to KPFT Houston.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government buy-in for the people. The U.S. Federal Court's Fifth Circuit, known for its conservative and sometimes fringe rulings, recently reheard a case from Galveston County, Texas, over whether a community of African Americans and Latinx Americans qualifies for protections under the Voting Rights Act. The court's opinion could further weaken the VRA. Petaway versus Galveston County, Texas, disputes redistricting of the county's commissioner districts, which civil rights and democracy groups argue took away the